G'day mates, my name's Mike and I am just a rugby league fan. So, NRL round 8, massive weekend, Anzac weekend. There was a hell of a lot to talk about and I must admit I took probably too many notes, so we better not muck around. So let's start with the first game of the Anzac round on Anzac Day itself. First Anzac Day game in New Zealand for quite a while. Warriors versus Titans. Warriors going down in a very close one, 24-27. I don't think many people predicted that. I certainly didn't. I had the Warriors 13 plus. The Warriors, they're definitely not playing like the Wars at the moment. They are playing like the Warriors. Warriors of old. It was hard to watch. Titans' first win of the year, so they'll be rapt about that. The Warriors got out to an early 12-0 lead, and I think they were really responding to their performance last week. The Warriors have been starting games well this year, but yeah, the first try came about because of a Titans error, and the Warriors were lucky the call went their way with a Rocco Berry in the ruck, so they're pretty lucky with that one. But Chance Clark-Stead scored, and shortly after that Adam Fanua-Blake scored. He's been scoring tries pretty much every game this year. The Titans made a break, and after those two tries, Titans made a good break on halfway. Blatant forward pass, if you ask me, but no one talked about that. AJ Brimson scored. Dylan Walker made an impact when he came on, but he got pretty tired. Maybe first came back for a little while, but gave away a stupid penalty in the ruck and tipping the ball with his foot as he was just after he's getting up from a tackle, and then he missed the tackle for Tanner Boyd to score. So that was 2 tries to the Titans to level the game, 12 all at 30 minutes. David Feeder scored after building up some pressure, and he came off after the Titans had built some pressure. David Feeder coming off the bench, late switch at the start of the game, and Tanner Boyd kicked a drop goal after the Warriors lost their review. 19-12, so yeah, David Feeder scored. So 19-12 at halftime. Yikes. Warriors just doing stupid things. They're doing silly things at the moment. I don't know. They're not in the right mental space, and I think they're feeling a bit of pressure. They had high expectations on themselves, I'd imagine. Warriors gave a penalty away in the first minute of the second half, and then another error and a missed tackle, and then a try to the Titans. Wade Egan knocked it on. Which I think that was in the lead up to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's try, and the slow-mo. Yeah, I mean, was it a knock-on? I mean, it must happen 100 times a game. I don't think the ball left his fingers, and whether it moved forward or not, I don't know. But anyway, it was a marginal, if you ask me, and I am biased, but it was a marginal call. They disallowed Rogers Tuivasa-Sheck's try, and look, the way the game went in the end, the Warriors managed to make a bit of a comeback, got to within 1 try. I think they had enough time, but they just couldn't pull it off. Couldn't turn around, couldn't score and seal the victory. So Titans won that one. But you just wanted to recap on the Warriors' injury toll at the moment. They had quite a few guys out, a few key men. Freddie Lussick at reserve hooker. It's not a major there, but Chanel Harris-Tavita's out, Chaz Tavanga, Bunty Afoa, Marata Niakore, Luke Metcalf, Kirk Capewell. There's some key men there. Kirk Capewell and Luke Metcalf, I think, were definitely the Warriors don't have a lot in attack at the moment, so they're short probably on a bit of creativity. And but anyway, certainly I think that forward rotation's lacking a little bit, and you can tell the depth is being tested. There was a lot of talk about the Warriors' strength and their depth. It was well tested, and clearly not as the depth hasn't quite been there. I'll talk about the Warriors team for this week later. Next game up was Dragons versus Roosters. Dragons obviously coming off a big win against the Warriors last week, one of their best games in a couple of years, and the Roosters are now off a narrow loss to the Storm, but showing signs that the Roosters are sort of coming into a bit of form or starting to gel. And this is it, certainly wasn't. This game wasn't a repeat for the Dragons after last week. They got well pumped. Scores 18-60. I had the Roosters winning 1-12. I think the Roosters scored 10 tries in the end. But anyway, like I said last week, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves is just someone you don't want to run into. And the first hit-up of the game, Moses Suli found that out. HIA, he was out for the game. He's not playing this week either. Dragons actually scored the first try through Jaden Sewer after throwing the ball around a little bit and managed to get across the line in the 6th minute. But then after that, it was all the Roosters. They scored 5 tries through to halftime to finish the half 6-30. Dom Young started it off after his return from suspension. He scored first for the Roosters and probably trying to make up for what he did a couple of weeks ago. And then in the second half, the Dragons scored first again to start that half. But de Belin up the middle, and that's probably the way the Dragons should have gone in terms of straight, or tried to dominate the middle. But they just didn't have an answer anywhere, really. And the Roosters responded to that try with 3 more before the Dragons scored again. Then another 2 tries for the Roosters to finish things off. So there was 10 tries in total for the Roosters, all converted by Sam Walker. Best game for the Roosters for at least 2 years. I don't think they played anywhere like this, like they did on the weekend last year, and all players for the Roosters really stood up. It was hard to sort of there was a few key men. Sam Walker, I think, coming back from injury, probably deserves the most chat. But other guys like Luke Keary scored a good try. Angus Crichton was class, and he's definitely come back to form like he's shown previously to earn Origin call-ups. But anyway, I think the Roosters were great across the board. So that was, just to recap, tries to Dom Young, Angus Crichton, Joey Manu. There was a penalty try, but that was sort of more or less for Sam Walker's efforts. Nat Butcher scored a couple. Luke Keary got one. Joey Manu got another one. So Joey Manu got 2. James Tedesco got 1. And Nat Butcher got 2, and Joseph Soaili got across the line as well. Also, all I wanted to say about the Roosters is there's been a few player movements for them. Joey Manu, obviously we know about him. He's going to rugby union. Joseph Soaili is going to rugby union as well at the end of the year. Luke Keary's just announced his retirement and at the end of this year. And then you have to look at guys like Jared Waerea-Hargreaves and James Tedesco nearing the end of their careers. They're in the twilight of their careers at the moment. That Roosters team's going to look very different even next year, as soon as next year, but certainly over the next 2 to 3 years. Anyway, great game. Good to see the Roosters just play like that. It's hard to sort of keep up with them. They do have talent. When it all comes together, they're hard to beat. Storm versus Rabbitohs was the final game on Anzac Day. Another rout. So we obviously had a 60-point win to the Roosters. Storm winning 54-20 against the Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs are no better after their bye. After the bye round, Storm burst out of the gate and scored 2 tries to Pappenhausen and Coates in the first 10 minutes. They were both off kicks. How good are the Storm, though, when they've got Cameron Munster on one side and Jerome Hughes on the other? So they had a try assist each in the first 10 minutes. Jacob Gagai scored 1 in response to those after being held up just before that. So he got across the line twice, scored once. Score was 10-4, but the Storm scored 4 more tries before halftime to make the score 32-4. Coates scored 2 more tries before halftime. So I'm still in the first half. So he scored 3 tries in the first half, but Xavier Coates scoring his 3rd try, injured himself, and he's out for the rest of the game. He's out this week as well. I don't know for how long, but he's I think a hamstring injury or something, so that doesn't sound too good. Rabbitohs somehow managed to score 3 tries in the start again. Second half, Pappenhausen starts the second half like the first. First half he scored the first try in the second half. Rabbitohs somehow managed to score 3 tries in 10 minutes to make the score 20-36, mounting a small comeback, but that was as close as they got. Storm score another 3 tries before full time. Cameron Munster scored a try and set up 4. Hard to argue that the Storm don't have the best spine when you've definitely got the best hooker, and probably the best 5'8" with Munster. Then you've got Pappenhausen and Jerome Hughes. I mean, Jerome Hughes is an international, and Pappenhausen's represented his state before. Anyway, 10 tries in total for the Storm. Impressive effort. Rabbitohs are still struggling. Damien Cook's out of form, but the young fullback was their shining light. He played pretty well, and Tane Milne at the end, just absolute brain explosion. It was literally the last couple of minutes of the game. Munster was standing in the tackle, as he does. He stands in the tackles pretty well. He had 2 or 3 guys around him, and Tane Milne dives head first at Cameron Munster's legs, and Tane Milne got yellow carded immediately, but it's likely to face some suspension, face some time out of the game. So yeah, Storm looking very classy. They're towards the top of the table. They're going to be a very hard team to beat. Okay, so there was one game on the Friday, Seagulls versus the Eels. The Seagulls winning 32-18. I had the Seagulls 13 plus, so that just came through. Game was at Brookie. Olakuatu was sin bin in the first 5 minutes. Eels dominated the first half, scoring 3 tries to 1 and leading 14-6 at halftime. Surprising most. Eels played pretty well in that first half. Eels didn't kick in conversion though, but they kicked a penalty for the first score of the game. Seagulls scored twice in the first 10 minutes after halftime with tries to DCE and Turbo, both converted. Seagulls stars needed to respond to a quiet first half, and they did. Micah Sevo scored 3 tries in his first game back after playing New South Wales Cup, but absolutely lost the plot there in the second half, elbowing Garrick in a tackle. I don't know, didn't need to, just dropped the elbow. So he got sin-binned in the 70th minute. I believe the Eels got within 2 points at that point, but they missed 8 points in conversions, and that was telling. Absolutely was telling. I mean, before that yellow card, the Eels were right in the game. Yellow card pretty much ended the game for any chances for the Eels to win. Manly scored down that side of the field straight after Sevo got sent off through Garrick. Garrick scored 5 minutes later too, down the same side of the field. Olakuatu had a try disallowed with a couple of minutes left. Seagulls won easy in the end, but could have been very different if Eels had kicked their goals, and Sevo of course didn't go to the bin. Eels now go to the bye, and we'll be happy about that. They're just counting down the weeks before Mitchell Moses returns. And then I heard today that Clint Gutherson is out. He's having surgery on his knee. He's out for probably a minimum of 4 weeks. I don't really know. We won't know who's going to be his replacement until next week, because the Eels are on the bye. Now moving to Saturday, Tigers versus Broncos. It was a home Campbelltown game, home game for the Tigers in Campbelltown. Terry Hill, news in the week that he passed away in his early 50s. Tigers really had a lot to play for in that sense, as he was a key, Tigers legend. But the Broncos won quite comfortably, 34-10 win to the Broncos. I had the Broncos at 13 plus. Big names for Broncos were back: Adam Reynolds, Payne Haas, along with Brendan Piakura, but Ezra Mam and Selwyn Cobbo were out. Solomon Alamalo, New Zealand rugby convert, he made his debut for the Tigers at wing. He came in for Junior Tupou, and there was a couple of tweaks in the forwards. Bateman went to lock. But anyway, it was a close first half, much closer than the scoreline suggested, really. Both teams had more chances to score, but didn't quite have that final polish to convert into points. The Tigers had a number of resets and penalties in Brisbane's half, and they decided to go for the try rather than take the points at goal. Coruscant managed to get the ball over, but try was disallowed. Very marginal call. I think that's still going to be debated for a little bit, but to be fair, that was quite a pivotal time in the game. So, I appreciate with the result, it probably didn't matter at the end, but momentum is everything, and that was a momentum killer. The score was 10-0 at that time. Broncos scored a great try with Reece Walsh finishing off right before half-time just to really frustrate the Tigers. The score at half-time was 16-0. Jock Madden scored 4 minutes after half-time, so the Broncos scored right at the end of the first half, right at the beginning of the second half, and that was really it for the Tigers after that. Reece Walsh was awesome in absolutely everything. Scoring tries, setting up tries, saving tries, and then he got penalised for lifting Utakamanu, the big Tigers prop, over the horizontal. I think it was Walsh making a statement more than anything that he stopped a big man. Coruscant went off with a sore back. We'll have to wait and see. I think he's been named this week, but Coruscant is right in the Origin frame at the moment, with Damien Cook really struggling. Haas scored a great try to show that he's back, although he probably was taking it reasonably easy from what I could tell, and he didn't need to push himself any harder than he did. That Broncos forward pack's pretty strong. Elamelo had a good game considering the result. He had some good hit-ups. And I think he made some good decisions on defence. I think when you're defending on the outside of Jacob Olam, it's always a little bit difficult to pick your moments when Olam goes in. But I think he did pretty well. There might have been one try on Elamelo's wing. I can't recall. But anyway, incredible scenes towards the end of the game with Walsh and Reynolds going down with cramp. Walsh vomiting. There was all sorts of things going on. So Walsh went off, Xavier Willison came on, and the Tigers were on attack. Kicked the ball back, and Xavier Willison, as he's running onto the field, had to shoot back and get the ball. And then the other thing that was quite cool was Adam Reynolds was defending on the wing, with his cramp, and managed to make an intercept, which and he couldn't run, he could hardly move. Just perfect timing, made the right decision, nailed it, showing outside backs how it should be done. Plenty of tries in that one as well. But anyway, Broncos winning easily, and they are right up towards the top four now. They're right in the top 8, so where they should be, but I think that they're a top 4 side. Cowboys versus Panthers. Panthers are just so hard to beat anywhere, aren't they? Anyway, the score was 20-26 up in Townsville. I had the Panthers 1-12. I think the Panthers actually were doing it slightly more comfortably. They dominated for most of the game, but Cowboys had a chance at the end there. Anyway, Nathan Cleary was back, of course. Moses Leota, Scott Sorensen, and Taruva were out. What I do want to just mention here quickly is that Taruva was basically given the week off. He had a massive decision to make during the week. He's just signed for the Tigers, so he's going to join his Fijian mate Coruscant at the Tigers next year. The Panthers had been pretty fair on their players that are making these big decisions. They didn't make a big deal out of it. Ivan Cleary just said, he had a lot to think about, and they gave him the week off, which is massive, considering he was signing for another club. They were pretty good with James Fisher-Harris when he signed for the Warriors, and had a big decision to make just recently as well. I must admit, they're really putting their player welfare first, is what we're hearing. Whether it's true behind the scenes, I don't know. But Taruva's been named this week, so at this stage, I'll take it at face value. There was a few milestones for the game. Kyle Felt it was his 200th game for the Cowboys. Life member now. Chad Townsend's 200th NRL game. Obviously, no, I think I've got that wrong. I think it was 250th game. And then Brian To'o's 100th game. He celebrated with a try in the first few minutes. I think we had the best attacking team versus the best defensive team. Best attacking team being the Cowboys, and that best defensive team this year, Panthers. Well, they've been the best defensive best defensive team for about 4 or 5 years. Panthers had to defend for long periods in their own line. Cowboys threw everything at scoring, but just couldn't break the Panthers' defence. Panthers got a chance and took it straight away. That is just devastating when that happens. Dylan Edwards scored a good try. Cowboys rushed to have a final attack before the end of the half. So Cowboys are having a crack right at the end of the half. I think they had a scrum or a penalty anyway, so they decided, let's have a go, and then Paul Alamoti intercepted to score in the last play of the half. Just devastating. 18-4 at halftime. Panthers' defence is one of their best attacking weapons. I think they even speak of it like that. Cowboys then had an error. They dropped a Cleary kick, and Liam Martin scooped up to score 5 minutes into the second half. 24-4. Wasn't looking good at all for the Cowboys. A piece of Val Holmes' brilliance, beating a few tackles off the scrum. It's good to see a set-piece try like that. He needed to break some good defenders, break tackles of good defenders to get there, and that did start a bit of a turnaround. Including that try, the Cowboys scored 3 tries in roughly about 10 minutes. I think it was from the 50th minute to the 60th minute to sort of start a bit of a turnaround, and they got right back in the game. The score was 20-24 with about 18 minutes to go. Cowboys continued to throw everything at the Panthers, but the Panthers' defence was just too good. But only just. Cowboys were very close. If Cowboys were playing any other team, you'd think they would win that game. Anyway, Jason Taumalolo had his best game in a long time, I felt. Brian To'o was immense, though, worth a mention. Obviously, it was his 100th game. He scored a try, over 220-odd run metres, but 21 tackle busts. I don't know what the record is. I didn't get that far, but that is the stuff of legend. He was very difficult to tackle by the looks of things. Dolphins versus Knights. Didn't get this one. I had Dolphins 13 plus after the effort they put in up in Darwin the week before against the Eels. It was at Suncorp, so technically a home game for the Dolphins, but the Knights winning this one 14-18 without Ponga. They were really trying to make a statement there. First game without Kalen Ponga. He's out for 12 weeks, so they do have to learn how to play without him. Sometimes that kind of galvanises the team. I know Ponga was captain as well, but anyway, the Knights stood up. They took, they played really well. David Armstrong made his debut and took his chance at fullback with Kalen Ponga out. Dane Gagai returned from injury, and he was the captain and goal kicker. Knights made the better start and scored 2 tries in the first 20 minutes, one to Armstrong on debut, and Gagai, I think he got 1 out of 2 conversions. Dolphins scored 1 first half try through Oren Kelly, his first NRL try, and he was pumped about it. Score at halftime was 6-10. Dolphins would have been happy with that, to be fair. They didn't play as well as the Knights. Knights definitely dominated. And also I think Kenny Bromwich went off with HIA, and he's not playing this week. The Knights started the scoring off in the second half with a good try to Tyson Gamble, and the only points between the 49th minute and the 77th minute was a penalty to the Knights. So Dane Gagai kicking that penalty, taking the score to 18-6. It was a reasonably tight game all the way through. Gagai kicking 3 out of 4 goals in the end, which actually proved to be the difference. And Dolphins managed to score 2 really good tries in the last few minutes, with another set and chance to score a game. So they had a chance to win the game, but the Knights managed to hold on. Asako missing both conversions for those 2 late tries, which actually could have taken them to Golden Point. It's just those little things. But anyway, it certainly made for an exciting finish, and they did have a chance to win, as I said. Knights showed real resolve and effort for each other with their captain out injured, surprising everyone with this win. Of course, being away from home and against the top 4 side. Dolphins won't be happy, but to be fair, the Knights fought pretty hard, and the Dolphins did have their chances. They just didn't took them, so they were slightly off, to be fair. David Armstrong had a great start to his NRL career, and he returned the ball well, and he does look like a real threat. So certainly a star of the future as well, and Troy Fuller for the for the Dolphins, fullback for the Dolphins, replacing Tabuai-Fidow. He's been playing pretty well. I would say easily the best game for the Knights this season. Last game of the round. Let's wrap it up. Raiders versus Sharks in Canberra. I had Sharks 13 plus. But yeah, the score was 0-40. Lots to talk about there, but ultimately Canberra 0, They just didn't offer much on attack. Ricky Stewart was celebrating 500 games at the NRL level, so that was a huge milestone for him as player and coach, I believe. Anyway, the biggest talking point for the teams was the inexperienced halves pairing and fullback for the Raiders. That certainly showed only a handful of games between three of them, the halves and the fullback. Jamal Fogarty, of course, is out. Ko Weeks gets his chance after there been a lot of talk he may get a bit of game time or may get the starting 6 spot. But anyway, so he's finally got his chance. They're up against the number 1 team. Sharks without Braden Trindle. Not sure what he's done there. He's not been named again this week. But David Atkinson plays his first NRL game. The Sharks scored 3 comfortable tries in the first half. Raiders unable to score, but did have plenty of chances. They bombed or freaking mucked up 3. Kicking game and attack was very directionless for the Raiders. As I said before, Thomas Hazelton has been playing pretty well. He scored a great try, but surprisingly beating a Joseph Tapine tackle. It was a 1-on-1, but Tapine, I don't know. You know, when you've got lack of experience around the rest of the team, the forwards, and certainly the experienced forwards in a good forward pack need to step up, and the Raiders did not do that. Raiders started the second. Oh, I missed something here. The other tries went to Cameron McInnes and Sione Katoa for the Sharks' first half. Raiders started the second half with a great opportunity after earning a repeat set on the 10-metre line. Ethan Strange was within a few millimetres to score, but for a try-saving tackle by Kennedy. 20-metre restart, penalty to Sharks, and try from the next set to Breton Nakora. Just bang, 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 switch her around, just by complete momentum shift, and just takes the wind out of the sails, doesn't it, when these things happen. Nicho Hynes kicked a 40-20, then a few tackles later strolls over. Look, I'd say Nicho Hynes has got to play a big role for the Blues and Orange in this year. I mean, certainly Coda Walker's not in form at the moment. Nicho Hynes is leading the Dally M chase. He's got to be a key man there. Sharks scored a couple more to win very easily, Katoa and Ramian. Hynes was amazing, but the whole team is playing pretty well. Just unreal, really, how well the Sharks are playing. I mean, they beat the Warriors in the first game of the season, and everyone was a bit surprised by that, but the Sharks have only lost 1 game, and to be fair, that was against the Tigers, in a real blip on their record this year. Raiders really struggled in defence, nothing to do with inexperienced halves and fullback, and just the forwards needed to step up and attack, to help the attack with offloads or whatever, but they just weren't there. They just got dominated, or they just had an off game, whatever. The Raiders just didn't play well across the board, and it looked like at times the whole Raiders team were trying to trying things on attack to help the halves out, but things just weren't coming off, for them. And I appreciate that everyone's probably said, okay, well, we've all got to go out and out attack, but you still need some direction and you still need some plan. And the Raiders didn't have that. They tried hard early in the second half, and it just fell to bits. Anyway, that's round 8. Heck of a good round, some big scores, lots of tries, had a bit of everything, and certainly the recognition for Anzac Day was very impressive. And just to finish off NRL round 8, I had 5 out of 8 tips correct, and that's the margin tipping. I had 1 result correct, but not the margin, so not too bad. I did say at the beginning of the round, or before the round, that it was a reasonably predictable round. Well, it wasn't as predictable as I thought. Anyway, so let's move on to NRL round 9. The first game up, we've got Rabbitohs versus the Panthers on Thursday night. Still lots to talk about in terms of the Rabbitohs coach and what's happening there. I think there's a lot of discussions happening at the club this week. But as at the time of this recording, the coach still has got his job. The Rabbitohs have made a few changes. Tane Moon is suspended, of course, so Isaac Thompson comes back into the team, meaning Jacob Gagai keeps his spot after scoring 2 tries on the weekend. Kolo Matangi and Davey Moali they're the starting props. Michael Cheekham's starting second row, and Tom Burgess goes to the bench. Sania Turuva returns after the week off that he had because of his signing, decision he had to make for next year. And that means Paul Alamoti is not playing, and he's been playing really well the last 2 weeks, I must admit. Moses Leota returns from a shoulder injury, and not much to say really. But it's a reasonably predictable game. You'd have to imagine the Panthers would win this reasonably comfortably. So I've got the Panthers 13+. Seagulls versus the Raiders is the first game on the Friday night. DC's named, or we should just check to see whether he's successful there. I think at the time I'm recording this, he's in the judiciary at the moment. So I don't know. But anyway, at the moment he's been named. They are challenging it. If they're unsuccessful, he'll be out for 3 weeks. Alakuatu is suspended. He's taken the guilty plea. He was in the same tackle. He's accepted a 2-week ban. Ethan Bullimore therefore comes in for him. Toa Fofoa Sipley returns on the bench from his knee injury for the Seagulls. Albert Hobawate for the Raiders comes in at fullback, which means that Chevy Stewart is out. He played pretty well on the weekend, but I wouldn't blame him for the result. He made 2 really good try-saving tackles, but I guess they're looking for something else. They need to score some points, but we'll certainly see more of the young kid. Nick Kotrick replaces James Schiller on the wing, and if you ask me, I don't think if that's a selection decision, I don't think that's a wise move. I felt like James Schiller was one of the better players for the Raiders on the weekend, and has been playing pretty well. Elliot Whitehead finally returns, which means that Simi Sasangi is out of the 17. Imre Gula comes in onto the bench for Pasami Saulo. So not too many changes for the Raiders, despite the fact that they got absolutely pumped. So in terms of my tip, Seagulls home game, Raiders still struggling. I don't think changing the fullback's going to make any difference. And if DC plays, Seagulls 13+. But if he doesn't play, Seagulls 13+. Anyway, so Broncos versus Roosters up at Suncorp. Ezra Mam and Selwyn Cobbo return. They just had the week off. Which means that Jock Madden and Corey Oates are out. Not surprisingly, Adam Reynolds and Reece Walsh are named. They were only battling with cramp last week, so there's no surprise there. Daniel Tupou returns from a knee injury for the Roosters on the wing, so that means Michael Jennings is out. Joseph Sua'ali'i will go into the centre position that Michael Jennings leaves open. Should be a really good game, this one, actually. The Roosters need to find some rhythm on attack like they did last week. Of course, competing with the Broncos is going to be hard anywhere, but so I'll tip the Broncos 1-12. That's how the result should go. 1-12, based on the fact that the Roosters need to play like they have done, probably even the last 2 weeks. So that's the second Friday night game, and then on Saturday we've got Bulldogs versus Tigers. I think that let me just get the team list. So there's been a few changes. Bulldogs have obviously coming off the bye. Been a few changes there. Kurt Mann is back at lock. Jacob Preston has been named. I mean, we may see him. He's been named on the reserves. He's coming back from a jaw injury. Chris Patolo, he's drops out with a sore knee, and that means that Josh Curran will shift to prop. Blake Taff again on the bench, which means that the Bulldogs have stuck with Connor Tracy as a preferred fullback after his last start at fullback. My tip here is Bulldogs to win 1-12, but I must admit this should be a really good game. Both these teams have been playing pretty well, and certainly a lot better than they did last year. So yeah. The Tigers, did I forget the Tigers? They've made no changes to the 17. That's why I forgot them. But Api Coruscant has been named despite his back injury. And, of course, Solomon Alamalo gets another go. So I'm quite keen to see that again. Big fan of his. Titans versus the Storm up in at Cbus Super Stadium in the Gold Coast. So for the Titans, Harley Smith-Shields is back at centre, and then Philip Sami replaces Cam Pereira, even though Cam Pereira scored a double on the weekend against the Warriors. Futchaweka is out through concussion, so that means Joe Simpson starts at prop, and David Fifita has been named again to start, but I'd imagine they'll put him back on the bench. That's been working pretty well for the Titans. And certainly from a minutes point of view, he's still getting, I think, 60-odd minutes, but he's certainly making an impact when he comes back on. When he does get his chance to come on. I'm not really sure. The one theory I had there is maybe because David Fifita may lack a little bit of defence, they want to have a bit of a more consistent start in defence and bring him on for his attack when players get a little bit tired. Anyway, for the Storm, Tyron Wishart on the wing, Xavier Coates is out with his hamstring injury, so I don't know how long, to be honest. And Bronson Garlick does come onto the bench because that's where Tyron Wishart would have been. Now, Sofa Solomona is named, but he picked up he had a knock in the Anzac Day game, so he's been named. So we'll see what happens there as well. But Titans versus Storm, I know Titans had a win on the weekend, and they have been playing reasonably well, but that Storm side's way too strong. Storm 13 plus is my tip there. And then the last game on the Saturday is the Cowboys versus Dolphins. Cowboys at home. Cowboys, Viliami Vailea is making his debut in the centres because Tom Chester is out with a hamstring injury. That centre position's been a bit difficult for the Cowboys this year. So Vailea is obviously ex-Warrior. He was a Rookie of the Year for the Warriors when he was playing there. Helam Luki is returning via the bench from his ankle injury. So just a couple of tweaks for the Cowboys. They struggled for most of that game against the Panthers, but they put themselves in a chance to actually win that game. Anyway, the Dolphins, Felice Kafusi is back from his hamstring injury. He replaces Jeremy Bromwich, who picked up an injury. No, not Jesse. Kenny Bromwich had a concussion, so Felice Kafusi comes in for him. Jesse Bromwich is named to start, even though he had a calf issue. Corneli Lemuelu is back. He's on the bench, so it's good to see him. He comes in for Oren Keeley. And still no sign of Herbie Farnworth, Tom Flegler or Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow. Tom Flegler, I believe, is avoiding surgery. I think we heard that this week or today. So he's still a few weeks out, but he might be a quicker turnaround than originally thought. Anyway, just to wrap that one up, Cowboys are at home. I think they'll win that one, but it'll be reasonably close. 1-12. Moving on to Sunday, we've got the Knights versus the Warriors. The Knights are unchanged, as you could imagine. They played really well. Why would they tweak that lineup? The Warriors the Warriors have got a couple of key returns. Kirk Capewell's back and starting second row after his sort of throat injury or whatever was bothering him there. Bunty Afoa is back on the bench from his hamstring injury, and that means because Kirk Capewell's back, Jacob Laban goes to the bench. Starting to look a bit more like the way they should, the Warriors I'm talking about. And really, Jazz Tavanga sort of seems to be one of the key omissions at the moment in terms of that forward rotation. But having Dylan Walker back's good. He'll be better for the hit out he had last week. So I'm tipping the Warriors 1-12, even though it's in Newcastle, and the Knights played really well last week, coming off a really good win. The Warriors really need to win. That is for sure, but and I think that the Knights, I don't know what to expect, but I think the Warriors will get there in a close one. That's just my tip. Sharks versus Dragons being the last game of the round. Sharks just one change there. Toby Rudolph is joining the bench, so he's coming back from injury. And then in terms of the Dragons, Moses Sully's out with concussion, of course, with his head clash with Jared Roy Hargraves, and Ravaloa returns on the wing. So I think that means that Zach Lomax will go back to centre. Luciano Leilua is a possibly can make the side. We'll see. He's been named in the reserves, extended reserves. Oh, my tip for this week is a home game for the Sharks after what they've been doing the last few weeks. I think that they'll win 13 plus is my tip. Anyway, enjoy. I know I will. And I'll catch you next week. Thanks.